Hey guys, welcome to L&D Home. In today's video, we are going to be tackling 4 DIYs that are going to help keep you organized and on track. All these DIYs are budget friendly and can be made pretty easily. So let's go ahead and jump right on in to our first DIY. This DIY, I really wanted to make something to keep me organized on at my desk. So I went to Google for some inspiration and typed in desk memo board. And then I just found a few that I liked. Now these are expensive and some of them lift up so you can store stuff inside, but I really wanted to get an idea of what I wanted. I really loved this one and it's not too bad on sale for $6.99, but I don't have that kind of room on my desk. So I wanted to make something a little bit smaller. So I grabbed a 5x7 frame from Dollar Tree. Then I went to Google again for some background inspo. I didn't want to just use plain white paper, but I wanted something subtle so you could still see the writing. One tip I have when you're doing this is to download several different pictures because you're going to see this one did not download. It said it couldn't do it. So have a few options. That way when you go into Microsoft Word, you're not frustrated because you only had one option. I like to go into the text box and then I like to size the text box to the shape of my frame. I'm doing 7 inches tall, 5 inches wide. I also like to put a border because that helps me when I go cut because I don't have a very steady hand. On mine, I'm just going to be writing the word notes and I used the font Magnolia Sky, which you can find on dafont.com. I will link that website down below. Once I sized everything the way that I wanted, then I wanted to insert my background. And it's really simple. You just go into the fill, choose a file, and it will perfectly insert whatever background you would like, and then you can just hit print. Now it's time to cut out our insert for our picture frame. And like I said, this is why I love having a border so I can cut along either the outside or the inside of the border. I did the outside for this one because I wanted it to fit perfectly in my frame. I wanted something very simple, so I just grabbed one of these frames from Dollar Tree and I'm going to slip it right in. But it does move around a little bit. So one tip I have is to turn it over, take a piece of tape, and put that tape on the back, making sure that your insert is exactly where you want it. That way, when you go to pick up your memo board and write on it, it's not going to move all around. Now you can write on this from your desk, but since I had the camera in the way, I did have to pick it up. But a regular dry erase marker works perfectly on these and you can wipe it off with just a paper towel. I absolutely love the way this turned out and it is super simple and it's only going to cost you $1.25 unless you have a frame laying around, then it's free. For our next DIY, we're going to be using these 2 little boxes from Dollar Tree. We're not using the lids. We are going to use those later in a different DIY, but for this, we're just going to be using the bottom of the boxes. I'm also using a 3-pack of these 5-gallon stir sticks. I painted all 3, but I really only needed 2. I mixed up some raw umber with some water to use it as a stain. I was using the paintbrush to slop it on and then wipe it off, and then I got smart and I just slopped paint on all 3 of these stir sticks and then wiped it off at the end. And yes, I left the ruler part on there. For one, I just didn't really mind it because we have a rustic feel in our house. You can sand it off if you like, but it actually came in really handy when I went to put this organization piece together. So I'm happy that I left it on there. I then used the brush also to stain all the parts of the boxes, and the brush comes in really handy for the inside of the boxes. That's a little bit harder to get into. So I just stained everything and then we're going to be ready for the next step.
I've been feeling so small. Watch the clock ticking off the wall. But tonight
I then decided to cut that little top part off, which I didn't need to do because I am going to be making them shorter anyway. But I did want to show you guys that you can use a miter box if you don't have power tools. I would usually use my saw, but I did want to show you guys it's possible without power tools. And I picked up mine up from Menards, but you can get them from pretty much any hardware store, even Walmart. Then I wanted to judge how short I wanted my pieces to actually be. I didn't want it to be this tall. I am going to have my drawers or boxes at a tilt. And this is the first time the ruler came in really handy because I cut these off at 10.5 inches. Sanded those rough edges. And then this was the trickiest part to figure out. getting both boxes absolutely perfect. But I did use a pen both on the sticks but also on the side of the box so that when I put my glue down, I know exactly where to put my box back down. I'm using a combination of wood glue and hot glue for that permanent and long-term hold.
Spend my coin for sure. I'm gonna be myself, or I could be someone else. No one's stopping me now. I'm gonna skip my breaks. I'm gonna make mistakes.
This part was also a little bit tricky. I wanted to make sure my other leg was nice and straight, so I just used an L square from Dollar Tree to make sure it was on there. And yes, I'm off camera, sorry, but I am just marking where my boxes need to go so I can glue that piece onto the other leg. I then am going to make a top and a bottom, and this is where I thought I was going to need that third paint stir stick, but I actually had leftovers from the first two, so I just used those scraps to make a top and bottom piece, and I just used hot glue for this because there wasn't a lot of wiggle room to use both glues on this part.
It's just what I do when
I did want my storage container to be a little bit more sturdy, so I had an extra scrap piece again, and I just glued that to the back. I then took a small brush and some of that paint and just went over any parts that weren't painted and rubbed off the excess.
try not to hold me.
I love the way this project turned out. I have styled it 3 different ways for you, but you can use it in so many different spots, especially since we didn't add any labels to the front. This can be a really versatile piece, and I really love the size of it. It brings something to a space, but it's not so big that you have to actually find room to put it. So I styled it in the kitchen, in an office setting, and I also styled it in my beauty room in case you're looking for something to hold all of those necklaces, earrings, and ponytail holders. This is probably one of my favorite DIYs of this video, and it is so useful. Our next DIY is going to be super simple. This is our current menu board and shopping list, and it's just not working for us. It's laminated. It doesn't look good. Every time you wipe it off, it gets all over the door. I love this system, but I don't like the way that I did it. So I'm going to be using these 2 frames that I just had in my stash, and I'm going to be redoing this system a bit. I'm also going to show you a sneak peek at another system that we use often. We are back in Microsoft Word, and since we did this already earlier in the video, I'm going to speed through this. You are going to see that I'm not doing all 7 days of the week. This menu board is really for our kids to know what's coming up for lunch and dinner, and we don't have them every day because we co-parent both of our children with other parents. So I'm only going to be adding the days that we have them. I hope this is going to make it easier for me. On the screen, you're going to see our summer list. This comes in clutch. And yes, I make my kids do work during the summer. But this just ensures that they get all of those things done, you know, like showering and brushing their teeth and everything before they get TV time. So they're not just in front of the TV all summer long. So we really love this as well. And I'm hoping that this weekly menu board and available snacks and our shopping list will work as well as this summer list works for us. Now it's time to put everything together. I like to use a butter knife because I have actually stabbed one of these little things into my finger, like deep in there. It hurt real bad. As you can see, I have a lot of different things that I have in this frame, and I'm going to keep all of that in there just in case I ever decide to take this down and use it as decor again for seasonal things or holidays. I do like to check to make sure everything is centered and lined up before I go through all the trouble of putting the back on. And here you can see I'm going to have to reprint this and move that title down a little bit. So I did that off camera. Now I am just taking off the laminated things that were already on the door, and I tried to give the door a good clean, but if you can see those marks, that is why I wanted to change this system up. There is black all around where the menu board used to be. I'm using a level and a pencil, and I'm just going to draw a straight line. Don't worry, you can erase the pencil marks later. On top of that straight line, I like to take a piece of painter's tape and put it right there. It's easier to get everything level with the pencil and then put the painter's tape on top so that I can use that as I'm hanging up my frames. I'm using some command strips, 3 on the back of each frame, so hopefully it holds because we open this pantry a lot. And then I'm using my painter's tape to line up my frames really nicely. Then at the end, all you have to do is pull the painter's tape off, erase any of the marks, and then you are ready to fill out your menu board. I'm letting the kids know what snacks are available in the pantry. I'm also adding paper towels to my shopping list because we are completely out because I use them all for my DIYs. And then I'm just filling out the last bit of this week with what's on the menu. Sometimes if it's a couple weekend and we don't have the kids, I just write that because we just usually figure out day by day what we want to have. But here is the final result. I think it looks way better than just that laminated paper, and hopefully it's going to function a lot better for us as well. For our final project, we're going to be using those lids from our previous project, and we're going to be painting the edges. I am choosing to just use a white, but you can use whatever color you like. I am not worried about painting the bottom because, well, it's going to be sitting on something. And when you paint the inside, you don't have to worry about painting that spot where the llama is. You just want to make sure you get those inside edges really good and get a little bit of paint on that bottom where the edges meet the bottom. We're going to be covering the inside bottom with something, but you don't want any weird spacing. Once those were dry, it was time to work on the inside. I am using this scrap piece of faux leather from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to trace the box twice since I have 2. And then I'm going to cut everything out. And I did have to do some finagling here because the piece was too big because of like those lips, those edges on the side. So if you're worried about getting a straight line, I would suggest taking a ruler or an L square, making a straight line, and just cutting little by little until you get the size that you need. Once I did get the size that I need on one of them, I traced that one onto the other one and cut them out. I'm starting with a thin line of hot glue on one side so I can place just one side down. And I am going to be only putting hot glue on the edges because I don't want you to be able to see the bubbling of the hot glue in the middle. Once that was all said and done, we are just going to connect both of our pieces together using that L square that you see laying on my table so that everything is nice and straight.
Feel alive when I'm in this town. Look at these beautiful stars. I wanna drive a faster car. Nothing can break me, no, nothing can break me. Try not to hold me down. Feel alive when I'm in this town.
And here we have the final reveal. I decided to use this in my bedroom to hold some of the things that I use at night when I go to bed. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you found it helpful and entertaining. Make sure that you check out the video and the playlist on the screen. And as always, smash that subscribe button so you can become part of our YouTube family. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.